Hello everyone, welcome to GS Booster Shot, your daily dose with GS preparations. In our today's lecture, we're going to holistically cover the topic of immunization. By means of this lecture, we're going to understand as to first, what is immunization and what are the benefits of immunization. Then we are going to study recent data by global organizations which points out that there has been a significant drop in immunization of various diseases amongst children over the past few years because of COVID related restrictions. Over here I am talking about other diseases and not with respect to COVID-19. Then we are going to see what are the initiatives taken by India with respect to immunization programs. Then we are going to see as to how has India been able to achieve this feat of 100 crore vaccination doses. Then we are going to see that what are the supply side things that India has done, and with respect to development of vaccines, what has been the role of India throughout the world. Lastly, we are going to see as to what are different types of vaccines. This is important with respect to our prelims aspect. So this topic is covered or relates to GS2 topics such as health and government policies and intervention. So let us start with the lecture. So what is immunization? Immunization is a process by which an individual is made immune or resistant to an infectious disease. So basically, vaccines stimulate the body's own immune system to protect the person against subsequent infections and diseases. Vaccines are also helpful to prevent the spread of diseases to others. Now, when a child is born, the child has some amount of immune system that he derives from the mother. However, later on the child starts developing its own basically immune system, and it is at that very point in time when the child is most susceptible to infectious diseases. It is over here that vaccines come in handy in order to prevent child mortality under the age of 5. Now, vaccines are perhaps the best investments that a government can do in the field of health. Vaccines have actually helped prevent about 2 to 3 million deaths every year. Also, they underpin global health security. Now, vaccines would be a helpful tool to prevent or win the battle against antimicrobial resistance. They are definitely the key component of primary health care and an indisputable human right. Now, let us see the context which is actually called for the discussion of this very topic. So, November 10th is the World Immunization Day. International organizations such as UNICEF, WHO and the Gavi has released the Pulse survey. Basically, this survey actually collected data and responses from about 82 countries, and out of these 82 countries, 3/4 countries have admitted that their normal vaccination programs have been impacted due to COVID-19, and therefore routine vaccination has today become a daunting challenge. There is a need to urgently resume vaccination programs before children's lives are threatened by the diseases. UNICEF Executive Director has said that we cannot trade one health crisis for another health crisis. And therefore, what we have seen the trend is that the progress on immunization coverage was already stalling before COVID-19 hit. And data shows that with respect to different disease vaccinations such as the DPT, the coverage is today only about 85%, whereas before COVID it was about 92%. If we are going to go as per this rate only, it has been shown by data and by these Pulse survey that for every child who is being born today to be vaccinated with all the designated vaccines that is required to be administered to him, it will be only about 20% of the children would receive these vaccines, and therefore 80% of children will remain at the risk of getting infected by these diseases which could have been easily prevented through vaccination. Now, what is the scenario in India With respect to India, the third dose of DPT coverage has declined to 86% in 2019 vis-a-vis from 86% in 2019 to 83% in 2020. BCG vaccination has also seen decline from 92% to 85% in 2020. This is the highest drop in DPT coverage since 2008. With respect to South Asia, the entire South Asia, including countries Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, has seen a drop of 6% in vaccination rates. Now, let us see what have been the initiatives taken by the Indian government with respect to this scenario. So recently the government has launched the intensified Mission Indradhanush 3.0 scheme. Basically, Mission Indradhanush covered a robust action, a scenario in which immunization would be provided to children and pregnant women. And since you see, because of COVID, there has come a bit basically gap in the immunization process. There are certain vaccines for which about 3 to 5 doses are administered. So what happens is, if there is a vaccine for about in which 5 doses are to be administered, first 3 doses are basically only there to prepare the individual's immune system, and then with the last 2 vaccines are basically going to provide him the sufficient immunity. If there is a gap of these 2 years, then what would be the scenario? Then that individual would be again, the situation would arise in which the individual has to again be given those 3 vaccines. So this needs to be monitored. This very intensified Mission Indradhanush 3.0 scheme is also going to look into this very aspect. So with respect to India's efforts at vaccination, so basically in 1978, India had launched the expanded program of immunization, and in 1985 this was changed to Universal Immunization Program. Under Universal Immunization Program, today about 12 vaccines are being administered to children and adults. Now, with respect to India's cooperation at the international stage, so basically, if we are to see if polio is to be eradicated from the world, it is not really sufficient that we have to just eradicate it from the country. It has to be eradicated from everywhere. There are only about 2 countries today, that is Afghanistan and Pakistan, that still has polio cases. And with this drop in rate of vaccination, it has also become a concern that whether or not Pakistan and Afghanistan would also be able to eliminate eliminate polio. So, stepping up, India had become a member of the COVAX mission. This is a global initiative which was aimed at equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. This has been led by UNICEF and Gavi. Besides this, India along with Quad also launched the Vaccine Maitri project, in which it is going to supply vaccines to different nations. So that is it. With respect to vaccines, no one is safe till everyone is safe. That we have to understand. Now, coming to the development aspect and the supply side of vaccines, let us see India's contributions. So, today about 80 to 90% of world's whole measles vaccines is provided by India. India also supplies the rubella vaccines to the entire South America. हमारी indigenous, we have developed an indigenous rotavirus vaccine which is today going to about 16 countries. We have indigenously developed meningococcal vaccine that India today supplies to the entire sub-Saharan Africa. Besides this, India has also been able to introduce the world's first subunit rabies vaccine, and this has today been approved by the Drug Controller General of India. This is the authority which actually basically approves every vaccine that has to be administered to the people. Now, how have we been able to achieve this 100 crore doses feat? Basically, as you have already seen that our immunization program is not something new, and India has also been successful in eliminating polio from the country, and therefore there is a robust mechanism with respect to vaccine administration as well in the country. What are the key components of this very mechanism? So, First of all, we have the electronic vaccine intelligence network. So this intelligence network works between suppliers, center and state governments, and this provides the robust mechanism for the supply side of the vaccines. Then we have the National Cold Chain Management Information System. Now this system is very helpful, and it has been indeed helpful in the case of COVID-19 also, because in COVID-19 the vaccines had to be preserved at certain temperature for them to be effective. And now this very system helps us to see what are the cold space, the storage spaces in the cold stores, and how they have to be worked upon. Then from vaccine hesitancy, today we have been able to come to the situation of vaccine demand thanks to the COVID situation. Now COVID has actually helped us a lot to eliminate or to cover up the vaccine hesitancy in the population. Now lastly, there is robust training of frontline workers. Besides this, India had also ensured and given guidelines that during COVID-19 immunization should not stop. Now moving on to the last leg of this very lecture, that is to study as to what are different types of vaccines. This is basically the scientific aspect of it, and this would also be important for us in our paper 3's perspective. Now first is the inactivated vaccines. As the word itself suggests, there is an inactivated germ, the germ that very causes the infectious disease. An inactivated cell of that very germ is basically given in the body, and that helps to develop the immune process and the immunization basically capacity in the body to fight that very infection. Then we have the messenger RNA vaccines. As the word itself suggests, messenger. So basically there are certain proteins which are injected in the body which trigger the immune system so as to develop such capacities that in the event that individual has been struck with that very germ or disease, the individual would already have the immune system and the to fight that very disease. Then we have the viral vector vaccines. Now viral vector vaccines, what are these vaccines? What happens in viral vector vaccines is that a similar germ with respect to the germ which is actually the problematic one is created, and then that germ is actually injected into the body. So what happens is, now this similar type germ although would not cause you the disease, but it will trigger the immune system so as to develop the capacity that in the event if you are actually stuck with that very germ which has been sought to be fought, you will have the capacity, your immune system would be developed to fight that very thing. Now fourthly, we have the live attenuated vaccine. As the word itself suggests, in this very thing, the live germ cell which is sought to be fought is actually given to the human body. However, this is a weaker version of this very germ, and this very weaker version of the germ helps to trigger the immune system again. However, the limitation with respect to live attenuated vaccine is that it cannot be given to those people whose immune systems are already compromised, because then there's a possibility that the individual might in turn get affected by that very disease. Now this very vaccine, the live attenuated vaccines, are being used to treat measles, mumps, rubella, rotavirus, smallpox and amongst other diseases. Then fifthly, we have the subunit, recombinant, polysaccharide and conjugate vaccines. Now what happens in these very vaccines? In the earlier vaccine we had seen that we send the weakened version of the germ. However, in this vaccine we do not send the entire germ, we basically send certain parts of that very germ into the body. Now these could be the protein, the sugar of the capsid, that is the casing surrounding around the germ. So basically this vaccine, these things trigger the immune system and helps to develop the fighting capacity. Now these vaccines have been developed in the cases of hepatitis B, HPV, pneumococcal disease amongst others. Lastly, we have the toxoid vaccine. Toxoid vaccine, in this very vaccine, a toxin is being made from the germ and then this toxin is injected in the body, and this helps in developing the immune response with respect to the particular disease which has been sought to be targeted. That is, and this very toxin is derived from that very germ of the disease only. So this is used in vaccines which are there to treat diphtheria and tetanus. So in this very manner, you can actually correlate the type of vaccine and the disease for which those vaccines have been used. So that will be all from my side for today's lecture. Should you have any doubts, feel free to put your doubts in the comment section. I'd be more than happy to reply to them. Thank you and have a nice day.